adjust my emerald dress one last time before stepping through the gleaming doors of Aveline's on the bay. The restaurant drips with opulence, crystal chandeliers throwing prisms across white tablecloths, silver service gleaming under perfectly positioned lights, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the San Francisco skyline against deepening twilight. The kind of place where the cheapest wine costs more than my weekly grocery budget. My parents' 35th anniversary deserves nothing less. I even splurged on these uncomfortable heels that pinch my toes with every step because tonight matters. Formal attire required, the invitation said. I complied. Mom spots me immediately, her silver-streaked hair swept into an elegant updo that complements her burgundy dress. She glides across the marble floor, pearl earrings catching the light. "Skylar, darling, you made it." Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes as she air kisses my cheek, her perfume cloud enveloping me. "You'll be sitting over there, sweetheart, with the little ones." I freeze mid-step. Following her gesture, my gaze lands on a small table tucked in the corner, where my 9-year-old nephew Owen and 7-year-old niece Riley are already coloring on children's menus. My stomach drops like an elevator with snapped cables. Heat floods my cheeks as my hands begin to tremble. I turn slowly, taking in the main table, stretching majestically across the center of the private dining room. 12 elegant place settings with crystal wine glasses, fine china, and silver candlesticks. Every adult family member is there. My brother Evan sits beside his wife Melissa, their heads bent in conversation. My sister Camille laughs at something her husband says. Aunt Lorraine, Uncle Robert, cousins Jennifer and David. Even my recently married cousin Stephanie and her new husband have prime seats at the main table. Only I, unmarried, unaccompanied, have been relegated to the corner with the children. There must be some mistake, I say, my voice embarrassingly small in this cavernous room. Mom, I don't understand. She pats my arm like I'm still 12. We needed you to balance out the children's table. Someone has to keep an eye on them. A memory flashes Thanksgiving 5 years ago. I'd brought Alex, my boyfriend at the time. We sat at the adult table, drinking wine, joining conversations about politics and property values. No question of my adult status then, with a man beside me. Now, without a wedding ring to prove my worth, I've been demoted to crayons and kids' meals. The internal voice that's been growing louder lately whispers again, I'm 29 years old. I run my own business. I've spent my life seeking their approval, balancing the scales between my achievements and their disappointment that I haven't followed the traditional path. But this public demotion feels like a bridge too far. A waiter approaches, holding out a colorful menu with cartoon seafood characters dancing across the top. "For the young lady," he says, not meeting my eyes. I wonder if he feels the humiliation radiating from me. Owen looks up from his coloring. "Do you want to use my blue crayon? I have green too." I fold the children's menu and stand. "I need to make a business call," I say, grasping for any excuse to escape this corner of shame. Mom's face tightens. "Really, Skylar? During a family celebration?" Dad looks over from the main table, his bow tie slightly askew against his crisp white collar. "Your work can wait for one evening, princess." The childhood nickname feels less affectionate now, more diminishing. My siblings exchange knowing glances, pretending not to notice my discomfort. Evan whispers something to Melissa, who covers her smile with a napkin. The realization crashes over me. This isn't just about seating arrangements. It's about my entire identity being invalidated. In their eyes, my unmarried status trumps everything else I've built. 6 years establishing my design studio from nothing. The recent $3.2 million commercial renovation project I landed against competitors twice my size. The feature in Architectural Digest that called my work boundary-pushing yet timeless. None of it matters because I don't have a husband. "I'll be right back," I say, turning toward the restrooms before anyone can object further. In the private hallway, my hands shake as I pull out my phone. I text Elena, "Change of plans. I'm celebrating tonight, just not here." The reply comes almost instantly. "What happened? Are you okay?" I type quickly, feeling both ridiculous and justified. They seated me at the kids' table, literally, with crayons. 3 dots appear, disappear, then reappear. Get out of there. That's beyond disrespectful. Standing in this quiet corridor with its tasteful sconces and abstract art, I face a choice. Return to the corner and endure an evening of humiliation, or walk out and face the family fallout. The memory of other dismissals strengthens my resolve. My summa cum laude graduation, barely acknowledged. That's nice, honey. But don't focus so much on career that you miss your chance at a family. The purchase of my Oakland loft met with, it's a good investment, but don't wait too long to find someone. Single women living alone can be targets. I make a quick calculation. I can spend the next hour folding myself smaller to fit into their narrow definition of success, or I can choose my dignity. I return to the children's table and gather my purse. I've been called away on an emergency, I tell Owen and Riley. Owen looks up with genuine disappointment. But you just got here. I squeeze his shoulder gently. I know, buddy. I'll make it up to you, I promise. I cast a cold glance toward the main table, where conversations continue without me. Mom notices first, rising halfway from her chair. Skylar, don't you dare. I walk out, back straight, chin lifted. The whispers erupt behind me like sparks from a struck match, but for the first time in 29 years, I choose myself over their approval. The maitre d' calls a car while I wait under the restaurant's burgundy awning. The San Francisco night wraps around me, cool and indifferent to family drama. My phone buzzes with incoming calls that I silence one by one. Elena's text appears. Where should I meet you? I look back at the glittering restaurant windows. Behind that glass, my family continues their celebration, perhaps already forgetting the empty chair at the children's table. Or perhaps they're spinning a story about my selfishness, my overreaction, my failure to understand family obligations. But tonight, I understand something new. Their approval isn't worth having if it comes at the cost of my self-respect. Meet me at Firefly. I text back. We have something better to celebrate. The Mission District wine bar feels like stepping into another dimension after the sterile opulence of Aveline's. Edison bulbs cast a warm glow over exposed brick walls. Vintage rock posters frame the bar where two tattooed women pour generous glasses for the after-work crowd. No crystal chandeliers, no judgmental stares. Just the comforting hum of conversations that don't concern my marital status. Elena bursts through the door, her curly hair windblown from the San Francisco evening breeze. She spots me immediately, weaving between tables with the purposeful stride that intimidates opposing attorneys in courtrooms. Her amber eyes narrow as she slides into the booth across from me. Tell me everything, she demands, unwrapping her scarf. And don't leave out a single detail. The words tumble out of me, the gleaming restaurant, my mother's cold air kiss, the small table tucked in the corner with crayons and cartoon characters dancing across colorful menus. You should have seen their faces when I left, I say, twisting my napkin into a tight spiral, like I'd committed some unforgivable social sin. Over a seating chart. Elena leans forward. This isn't about tonight, Sky. This is about a pattern. She's right, of course. The kids' table was just the final insult in a long campaign of diminishment. Remember the Callaway Project presentation? I ask. When Mom introduced me to her friends as still figuring things out, despite running my own firm for 6 years? Elena nods, her jaw tightening. Or Christmas last year, when Dad praised Evan's stable accounting career for 15 minutes, then asked if I was still doing that decorating thing? The waiter approaches, a bearded man with kind eyes who notices my white-knuckled grip on the napkin. Rough night? Independence Day celebration, Elena explains, ordering a bottle of Cabernet. I continue once he leaves. When I bought my loft, Mom actually said, That's great, dear, but don't wait too long to find someone. Single women living alone are targets. As if your safety depends on having a husband, Elena scoffs. Dad was worse. Called my business a nice hobby until you settle down. The memory stings fresh despite being 3 years old. Even after the Architectural Digest feature on the Harrison building renovation, all he said was, impressive. They let someone your age work on something that expensive. The waiter returns with our wine. I take a large swallow, letting the rich flavor coat my tongue before continuing. Every single accomplishment gets qualified. It's never enough because I don't have a wedding ring. My voice catches. Nothing I achieve professionally will ever matter as much as my failure to secure a husband. Elena reaches across the table, squeezing my hand. That's their broken measuring stick, not yours. I've spent my entire adult life trying to earn their approval, I whisper, the realization settling like concrete in my stomach. Graduated summa cum laude, built a 7-figure business from scratch, bought property before 30, all hoping they'd finally see me as successful. My phone buzzes against the table. Mom, then Dad, then Evan. I silence each call, one after another. Every family gathering, the same questions: who I'm dating, never what I'm designing. Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, always some comment about my biological clock or how I'm too picky. I take another drink. Last Thanksgiving, Melissa asked if I'd considered freezing my eggs since I was focused on career. Your sister-in-law is a special kind of awful, Elena mutters. Remember Jason's wedding reception? I continue. Where mom seated me with her friend's single sons rather than my cousins because networking is important? Elena's eyebrows rise. The orthodontist with the toupee? Despite everything, I laugh. And the podiatrist who talked about foot fungus through 3 courses. My phone lights up again, Camille now. The family alarm system fully activated. Why am I still trying to prove myself to people who will never see me? The question isn't rhetorical. I genuinely don't know. Because they're family, Elena says simply. We're programmed to seek their approval. Their approval isn't worth having on their terms. The words feel revolutionary as they leave my mouth. I remember last Christmas dinner. My cousin Stephen, recently married but with a failing landscaping business, receiving toast after toast while my most profitable year went unmentioned. The pattern suddenly crystal clear. My phone vibrates continuously now. 57 missed calls. 23 text messages. I power it off completely, the screen going black with satisfying finality. No achievement will ever be enough without a husband beside me, I say. The anger that's been building all evening hardens into resolve. I'm done trying. Elena watches me carefully. Do you think they realize how hurtful this is? The question catches me off guard. I've been so focused on my pain that I haven't considered their perspective. Mom grew up in a different world. I admit reluctantly, where a woman's success was measured by her marriage. She was 22 when she married Dad, had Evan by 24. Evan. Her entire identity is being a wife and mother. Elena adds, and Dad. I trail off, considering. His father abandoned them when he was 12. Having a complete family matters to him more than anything. They're not cartoon villains, Elena says. They genuinely believe they're helping by pushing you toward marriage. I stare into my wine. That's what makes it dangerous. They believe they're right, which means they'll never stop. They can't understand success outside their narrow definition, Elena continues. Your independence threatens their worldview. They're genuinely puzzled by my reaction. I realize. They can't see how cruel they've been because in their minds, they're showing love by trying to fix what's wrong with my life. My anger softens slightly, making room for something more complex: sadness for the relationship we might have had if they could see me clearly. Elena refills our glasses. So what now? Holiday dinners? Family gatherings? The question looms large. I don't know. I can't keep pretending their behavior is acceptable. You wouldn't tell your clients to accept this treatment, Elena reminds me. She's right. I'd never advise a client to continue a relationship with someone who repeatedly diminished them. If you need space, my guest room is yours. Elena offers. But remember, you have options. Your financial independence gives you freedom most people don't have. I nod, grateful for her practical approach. I don't have to decide everything tonight. Maybe consider therapy? Elena suggests. Someone neutral to help you navigate family dynamics? My phone remains dark on the table, but I know the messages continue to accumulate. 30, then 40, then 50 missed calls. The family in full crisis mode because I've disrupted their narrative. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing peace over obligation. The sensation is simultaneously terrifying and liberating. I'm done shrinking myself to fit their definition of success, I say finally, raising my glass. Elena clinks hers against mine. About damn time. I wake to my phone vibrating itself toward the edge of my nightstand. Squinting at the screen, I freeze. 107 unread messages. 83 missed calls. The events of last night flood back, walking out of Aveline's, my emerald dress catching the evening breeze as I left my family staring after me. For the first time in my adult life, I chose myself over their approval. I prop myself against the headboard, bracing for the onslaught as I begin scrolling. Mom. Skylar Elizabeth Thompson, call me this instant. Dad. Your behavior embarrassed this entire family. I expect better from you. Evan. Way to ruin Mom and Dad's anniversary. Real mature, sis. Camille. You made Mom cry. Happy now? The messages blur together into a symphony of guilt and accusations. Overreacted. Tantrum. Selfish. Embarrassing. Childish. My chest tightens with each word, that familiar urge to apologize rising automatically. Then I see it, a message from Aunt Lorraine, time-stamped 2:14 a.m. You did nothing wrong, Skylar. That seating arrangement was cruel. I'm proud of you for leaving. I read it 3 times, not quite believing the words. My mother's sister, the family peacekeeper, is validating my feelings? The tight band around my chest loosens slightly. I return to the family group chat, reading more carefully now. Something shifts in my perception as I examine their messages with my designer's eye, the eye that notices when a client says they want modern, but their inspiration photos scream traditional. They're all using the same language. Tantrum, overreaction, nothing. Mom to Camille, your sister had a tantrum over nothing at dinner. Dad to Uncle Robert, Skylar overreacted to a simple seating arrangement. Evan to our cousin David, she stormed out over nothing, typical drama. They're coordinating, controlling the narrative. If everyone agrees it was nothing, then I must be the unreasonable one. But Aunt Lorraine's message tells me something crucial. Not everyone buys their version. Which means they know, on some level, that they were wrong. Why else work so hard to justify it? My design mind clicks into analytical mode, the same process I use when troubleshooting a difficult client renovation. I begin categorizing their responses. Guilt tactics. You made your mother cry. Appeal to obligation. After everything we've done for you. Dismissal of feelings. It was just a seating arrangement. A new text from my parents arrives as I'm analyzing. You clearly overreacted last night, but we're willing to overlook it if you apologize. Sunday brunch at the house, 11 a.m. My finger hovers over the keyboard. 6 months ago, I would have already been drafting an apology, eager to smooth things over regardless of who was right. But something has shifted. Their message assumes I'll fall in line, that their forgiveness is the prize I'm seeking. For the first time, I see the manipulation clearly, and with clarity comes power. I type a response, delete it, then try again. Finally, I send, I need space. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Her reply comes instantly. You don't take space from family. Dad follows up. We expect you Sunday, period. I silence notifications and turn to my laptop. I have a major client presentation in 3 days that deserves my full attention. Family drama will have to wait. 2 days pass in a blur of fabric swatches, lighting plans, and contractor negotiations. When the doorbell rings Thursday evening, I assume it's the Thai food I ordered. Instead, I open my door to find my parents standing in the hallway of my Oakland loft. Mom pushes past me without waiting for an invitation. This has gone on long enough. Dad follows, his bow tie perfectly straight against his collar, despite the casual setting. You're acting like a child, which is why we seated you with the children. I close the door slowly, taking a deep breath. We stand in my living room, surrounded by evidence of my success, the custom furniture I designed, the architectural awards on floating shelves, the framed Architectural Digest feature. For the first time, I notice how my father's eyes dart around my space, taking in the high ceilings, the wall of windows overlooking Lake Merritt, the Italian leather sofa that cost more than his first car. This is my territory, not theirs. Respect goes both ways, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. You seated me with children because I wasn't married. Mom waves her hand dismissively. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. My accomplishments and age should earn me a place at the adult table, I say, gesturing to the magazine feature they've never acknowledged. This isn't about seating arrangements, it's about respect. Dad's jaw tightens. This attitude will exclude you from future family events. The threat hangs in the air between us. 6 years ago, it would have crushed me. Tonight, I find I'm willing to pay that price. If that's the cost for having boundaries, I'll pay it, I say quietly. They leave in stunned silence, no hugs or goodbyes. I close the door behind them, waiting for the familiar wave of guilt and tears. Instead, I feel only relief, like I've set down a heavy suitcase I've been carrying for years. My phone rings 20 minutes later. Elena's name flashes on the screen. Your mom just called me, she says without preamble. I'm bringing takeout, wine or whiskey. By the time Elena arrives with bags of comfort food, my apartment phone is ringing. Aunt Lorraine's voice comes through the speaker. Your mother called me ranting, she says. You did the right thing, Skylar. Healthy boundaries aren't rejection, they're self-respect. I sink onto my sofa, suddenly overwhelmed. Part of me feels relieved, I admit, but there's also this undercurrent of grief, like I'm mourning the relationship I wished we had. You're not rejecting family, Elena says, unpacking containers of pad thai and green curry. You're rejecting disrespect. My phone lights up with a text message. My nephew Owen's name appears. Miss you. When are you coming over? My heart contracts. Owen and Riley are innocent in all this. The kids shouldn't be collateral damage, I say to Elena. I text Owen back. Miss you too, buddy. I'll see you soon, I promise. How's the science project coming? 'Kay? Setting boundaries with my parents doesn't mean cutting off everyone. Some relationships are worth preserving, just differently. My business line rings. It's the VP of the tech company whose headquarters we're renovating. You knocked it out of the park with that presentation, Skylar. The board unanimously approved your vision. As I hang up, the contrast hits me. In my professional world, my ideas are valued, my expertise respected. Only in my family am I still treated as inadequate. Elena pours wine as two more friends arrive, summoned by her rapid-fire texts. They bring dessert and fierce loyalty, gathering around my dining table in an impromptu celebration. To being valued for who you are. Elena toasts, raising her glass, not who others want you to be. Surrounded by these women who see me clearly, I realize I'm not alone in this stand for respect. The family I've chosen understands what my family of origin cannot, that my worth isn't measured by a wedding ring. For the first time since walking out of Avelines, I feel genuinely hopeful. Drawing boundaries doesn't have to mean permanent estrangement. It might actually lead to healthier relationships. If my parents can learn to see me as I am, not as they wish I were. If not, I have people who already do. I survey my studio office with the same critical eye I apply to client spaces. Design boards line the exposed brick wall, each one representing six-figure projects. Client files sit in precise stacks on my glass-topped desk, color-coded tabs marking phases of completion. Everything in its place orderly, methodical, controlled. Just like my approach to family will be from now on. A week has passed since the confrontation at my loft. My phone shows 23 unread messages from my parents, each one strategically ignored. The notifications no longer trigger that familiar rush of anxiety. Instead, I view them as data points in a pattern I'm finally understanding. I pull up my digital calendar, reviewing the upcoming family landmines. Owen's birthday next Saturday, Memorial Day at the lake house 3 weeks after that. Each event requires a decision to attend and establish new boundaries, or decline and maintain distance. The designer in me recognizes this as a familiar challenge, how to preserve structural integrity while implementing necessary changes. If this were a design challenge, I murmur to myself, tapping my Mont Blanc pen against the desk, what would the solution look like? The initial rush of victory after standing up to my parents has faded. That moment when they left my apartment, stunned by my refusal to apologize, it felt exhilarating. But emotional highs don't sustain themselves, and they certainly don't build lasting foundations. I need strategy, not just satisfaction. My thoughts drift to Owen and Riley. Their birthdays, school performances, soccer games, all the moments where innocent relationships could become collateral damage in this boundary war. My quarrel isn't with them. Yet maintaining those connections while keeping appropriate distance from my parents requires precision planning. I open my notebook to a fresh page and write, relationship assessment at the top, then draw a line down the center. On the left, I list relationships worth preserving. Owen and Riley, Aunt Lorraine, perhaps eventually Evan and Camille. On the right, boundaries that are non-negotiable, equal treatment at family gatherings, acknowledgement of my professional accomplishments, no more marriage pressure. The pattern becomes clearer as I write. My success threatens them not because they wish me ill, but because it challenges their definition of what a woman's life should be. A definition my mother built her identity around, and my father reinforced through decades of being the provider. I can't change their perspective. I can only change my response to it. This realization settles over me, not with the sharp sting of our confrontation, but with the steady weight of truth. I'm not devastated anymore, but I'm not coldly cutting ties either. I'm simply preparing for the inevitable encounters ahead. My assistant knocks lightly on the doorframe. Your 2 o'clock is here early. I nod, closing my notebook. Thank you, Rachel. Give me 5 minutes, then send them in. When she leaves, I reach for my phone and text Dr. Lambert's office to confirm tomorrow's appointment. The family dynamics specialist came highly recommended by Elena, who insisted professional guidance wasn't admitting defeat but adding another resource to my toolkit. Over the past week, I've documented every interaction with my family when my parents call, what phrases trigger defensive reactions, which tactics they employ most frequently. Dr. Lambert suggested this systematic approach, treating family communication patterns like any other dataset to be analyzed. I've expanded my support network beyond just Elena. Our weekly dinner dates continue, but I've also reached out to Aunt Lorraine, who sends texts that often begin with, "Your mother doesn't know I'm telling you this." But, intelligence from behind enemy lines? The books on my nightstand have shifted from design magazines to titles like Boundaries and Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Research, like I would conduct for any major project. I'm not pursuing direct confrontation anymore. I'm building infrastructure for the long term, reviewing finances to confirm my complete independence from family resources, instructing Rachel to screen calls during work hours, implementing designated family contact times that I control. In my desk drawer, I keep a small notebook with scripted responses for common pressure tactics. When Mom says, "Family doesn't take space from family," I can reply with, "Healthy families respect each other's boundaries." When Dad threatens, "You'll be excluded from family events," I can respond with, "I hope not, but I won't attend if I'm not treated with respect." Not cutting ties completely, but creating structure for limited healthy contact. My phone buzzes with a text from Evan. I brace myself before reading it. "Mom and Dad expect you at Owen's birthday Saturday. They say you need to apologize first." My stomach tightens, the first emotional response I've felt all week. I'm tempted to skip the party altogether, avoiding the drama, but that punishes Owen, not my parents. Alternatively, I could capitulate just for my nephew's sake, slipping back into the old pattern of shrinking myself to keep peace. Either option feels like losing. I read between the lines of Evan's message. My parents are now using their grandchildren as leverage, knowing my attachment to them. They've enlisted my brother as their messenger, dividing family loyalties. "They think you're being selfish and ungrateful," Evan adds in a follow-up text. The message reveals something important. My parents aren't just reacting emotionally anymore. They're strategizing, recruiting allies, applying pressure points. This isn't just hurt feelings, it's a campaign to restore their authority. I set my phone down, taking a deep breath. The challenge has escalated, but my resolve hasn't broken. I'll talk to Owen directly about his birthday, I text back, then set my phone aside. My 2 o'clock client will be waiting. I stand, smoothing my skirt and checking my reflection in the small mirror behind my door. Professional, composed, determined exactly how I'll approach this family situation from now on. No more reacting, only responding, on my terms. On Thursday, I apply a final coat of sealer to the sample board for my Silicon Valley tech client, admiring how the reclaimed redwood contrasts with the brushed steel accents. This renovation will transform their sterile headquarters into something with soul, exactly what the 30-something CEO requested when he hired my firm over competitors twice our size. Crossing the finish line? Elena asks, leaning against my office doorframe. Just sent the last mock-ups to production. I place the board carefully on my drying rack. $3.2 million project wrapped in a bow. My phone buzzes on the desk, the special vibration pattern I've assigned to family. I don't reach for it. Another Thompson family production? Elena raises an eyebrow. I nod, turning back to my desk where I've arranged a different kind of project materials. A leather-bound notebook labeled Family Communication Plan, a stack of index cards with pre-written responses, and a single-page document titled Statement of Boundaries. It's like prepping for the Anderson pitch, I say, tapping the boundary statement. Know your talking points, anticipate objections, maintain composure under pressure. The family communication plan sits open to a highlighted schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 to 7:30 p.m., only designated times for returning family calls. The rest goes to voicemail, preserving my mental workspace during business hours. On the corner of my desk sits Owen's birthday gift, a professional-grade architectural model kit I special ordered from Germany, wrapped in paper covered with dinosaurs wearing party hats. The sight of it warms me, a reminder that not all family relationships need recalibration. So tomorrow you'll see Owen? Elena asks. Day before the actual party. Aunt Lorraine is meeting me there as buffer. I tap my calendar. I've already booked a rideshare, no chance for them to offer transportation and make me dependent. My phone buzzes again. 5 missed calls in the last hour. They're persistent, Elena notes. Predictably so. I flip to the section in my notebook labeled Anticipated Tactics. Below, guilt, dismissal, and flying monkeys, is a fresh entry. Health concerns. I've highlighted it in red. The latest voicemail was creative. I press play and set it on speaker. My mother's voice fills the room, trembling with calculated emotion. Skylar, your father had chest pains last night. The doctor says it's stress-related. Is this what you want? To make your father ill with worry? Call us immediately. Elena's expression hardens. Wow, that's low. I almost called right away, I admit. Then I remembered Dr. Winter's advice about manipulation tactics. I show Elena the text from Aunt Lorraine. Charles had indigestion from Teresa's spicy meatballs. Doctor gave him antacids. Don't fall for the drama. Your aunt is the MVP in this situation, Elena says. Before she can continue, my phone lights up with Camille's name. Against my better judgment, I answer. They're trying, Sky, in their way. My sister's voice has that placating tone I've come to recognize. Dad's really upset. Mom thinks family therapy might help. Can't you meet them halfway? I take a deep breath, scanning my index cards until I find the one labeled sibling pressure. I appreciate your concern, Camille. I recite the practiced words. But I'm not responsible for managing their emotions about my boundaries. The words feel stronger each time I say them. But they're your parents, she pushes. They love you. Love includes respect, I counter, my voice steady. I'll see Owen tomorrow at 3. Please don't turn his birthday into an ambush. After hanging up, I return to my preparations. Elena watches me sort through response cards with the same precision I apply to fabric swatches. You know, I never thought I'd see you apply your client presentation skills to family drama, she says. This requires the same focus as a $1 million project, I respond, rehearsing scenarios in my mind. Higher stakes, actually. The evening flows into a series of final preparations, reviewing likely confrontation points, practicing physical techniques for maintaining composure, identifying trigger phrases to avoid emotional reactions. No victories today, just careful preparation, building methodically toward what lies ahead. When I finally return to my apartment, I clean thoroughly, knowing a peaceful environment will help maintain my emotional equilibrium tomorrow. I review work emails one last time, clearing my professional obligations. With ceremonial care, I place Owen's gift by the door. My nephew deserves the best version of Aunt Skylar, not one distracted by family power struggles. The phone vibrates one final time for the night. A text from Elena. You've got this. Remember why you're doing it. I send a simple reply. I'm nervous but ready. Standing at my living room window, I watch San Francisco's lights shimmer across the bay. 6 months ago, I would have been a wreck tonight, desperate for my parents' approval, willing to fold myself smaller to avoid conflict. Now I feel something unfamiliar, calm determination. Tomorrow will be challenging, but I'm no longer walking in unprepared. Whatever ambush awaits, I've built my defenses carefully, with the same attention to detail that earned me that feature in Architectural Digest. I review my boundary statement one final time before sleep. I am a successful adult deserving of respect. I choose relationships that honor my worth. For the first time in weeks, I sleep without interruption. I pulled into Evan's driveway on Friday afternoon, my gift for Owen wrapped in bright comic book paper and topped with a massive blue bow. Checking my reflection in the rearview mirror, I smooth a wrinkle from my ivory blouse and take a deep breath. The strategic timing should work perfectly, just me and Owen, a special aunt-nephew moment the day before his actual party. Something's wrong. My mother's silver Cadillac and my father's black Lincoln sit prominently in the circular driveway. My stomach tightens. This was supposed to be just Owen, Evan promised. For a moment, I consider backing out and leaving, but the thought of disappointing my nephew stops me. I grip the steering wheel, knuckles whitening. You prepared for this, I whisper to myself, running through the mental script I've practiced with my therapist. I grab Owen's gift and walk purposefully toward the front door. Before I can knock, it swings open to reveal my mother, her smile tight as a piano wire. Skylar, What perfect timing, she says with artificial brightness. We thought it would be nice to have everyone together. Everyone is right. Beyond her shoulder, I glimpse not just my immediate family, but what appears to be every Thompson relative within a 100-mile radius crowded into Evan's expansive living room. My Aunt Doris examining family photos on the mantel. Uncle Robert sipping something amber from a crystal tumbler. Cousins Jennifer and David huddled near the fireplace. Even my grandmother, who rarely leaves her retirement community, sits regally in Evan's armchair. My father rises from the sofa. Family issues should be resolved as a family, he announces with the gravity of a judge delivering a sentence. The setup hits me with stunning clarity. This isn't a coincidence, it's an ambush. A calculated gathering designed to overwhelm me with witnesses, to force my capitulation through public pressure. Evan stands behind my parents, avoiding my eyes. The brother I trusted arranged this trap, this family tribunal, masquerading as a casual gathering. Camille hovers near the hallway that leads to the back door, her position forming a subtle barrier between me and a quick exit. Owen spots me from across the room and breaks away from the adults. He runs toward me, unaware of the tension crackling in the air. Aunt Skylar, you came. I kneel to his height, focusing solely on his gap-toothed smile. Happy early birthday, buddy. I brought your gift. Can I open it now? He asks, bouncing with excitement. Before I can answer, my mother steps forward, her voice carrying across the suddenly quieted room. Before presents, Skylar has something she'd like to say to us all. The presumption steals my breath. My father adds, we've been very patient with her little tantrum. Every eye in the room turns toward me, expectant. The pressure almost physical, like the air before a thunderstorm. This moment, orchestrated to maximize my disadvantage, reveals how desperately they cling to control. I stand, maintaining the composed exterior I've practiced for weeks. I came to celebrate Owen, I say, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath. Not to perform. Camille steps forward, her voice honey-sweet with manipulation. Can't you just apologize and move past this? We're family. There's nothing to apologize for, I reply, the words familiar from countless rehearsals. I deserve respect. I deserve respect. My mother's face hardens. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? With stubborn pride? I won't discuss this at a child's celebration, I state firmly, implementing the boundary statement I crafted with my therapist. The words feel like armor. A slight movement draws my attention. Aunt Lorraine crosses the room to stand beside me, her quiet presence a surprising bulwark. Several cousins exchange uncomfortable glances, the unified family front showing its first cracks. Let's all just calm down, Evan suggests, finally finding his voice. His peacekeeping attempt falls flat in the charged atmosphere. I'm perfectly calm, I reply, the steadiness of my voice surprising even me. I'm also leaving. Owen clutches his gift, confusion clouding his face. I squeeze his shoulder gently. I'll see you soon, buddy. Enjoy your present. I turn toward the front door, gift delivered, boundaries maintained, dignity intact, the strategic withdrawal I planned. Now my only option. My father moves with surprising speed for a man in his 60s, positioning himself between me and the exit. You're not walking out on this family again, he declares, arms crossed over his chest. The room falls silent, the confrontation reaching its apex. My heart pounds against my ribs, but my voice remains level. Move aside, Dad. He doesn't budge. Not until you show some respect. The stakes crystallize in this moment. His physical blocking of my exit crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed. My mother joins him, a unified wall of parental authority. We raised you better than this selfishness, she adds. What you're doing now proves exactly why I left that dinner, I say, loud enough for everyone to hear. The quiet statement lands like a thunderclap in the silent room. Owen's lower lip trembles. He clutches his unopened gift to his chest and begins to cry, overwhelmed by the adult conflict swirling around him. His tears become the catalyst that shifts the room's dynamics. Aunt Lorraine speaks first, her normally soft voice cutting through the tension. Charles, Margaret, you're ruining your grandson's celebration. Uncle Robert places his tumbler on the mantel with deliberate care. Let her go. This isn't right. My father's jaw tightens, his final weapon a threat delivered with quiet intensity. If you walk out that door, don't expect to be welcomed back. The ultimatum hangs in the air between us. 6 months ago, those words would have shattered me, sent me scrambling to placate. Now they merely confirm the correctness of my path. That's your choice, not mine, I reply, meeting his gaze without flinching. He holds firm for a moment longer before stepping aside, the briefest flicker of surprise crossing his face at my resolve. I walk to the door, back straight, steps measured. At the threshold, I turn to address the room, no longer afraid of who might hear. I'll be at my home tomorrow if anyone wants to have a real conversation. The door closes behind me with a quiet click that sounds like freedom. On Saturday, I adjust the toss pillows on my sofa for the third time when the doorbell rings. My stomach tightens as I check my watch, 11 o'clock sharp. The punctuality is pure Margaret Thompson. Opening my door reveals exactly what I expected. My parents standing side by side in the hallway of my building. Mom's hair is impeccably styled, her camel coat unbuttoned to reveal a coordinated sweater set. Dad stands slightly behind her, his jaw set in that familiar rigid line that signals his displeasure. Several neighbors pass by, nodding, hello. The public setting isn't accidental. My parents have always been masters at leveraging witnesses to enforce good behavior. Come in, I say, stepping aside. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. They enter, and I see Mom's eyes sweep across my space, taking in the walnut coffee table. I restored myself, the statement light fixture that graces my living area. The framed page from Architectural Digest, featuring my Nob Hill project. You've turned the entire family against us. Mom opens without preamble, not bothering to remove her coat. Dad crosses his arms. Your behavior is inexcusable. I remain standing rather than inviting them to sit. I didn't invite you here to be attacked. We didn't come to attack, Mom says, her voice softening into the tone she uses when trying to reel me back in. We came because we're concerned. For years, I've accepted being treated as less valuable because I'm not married. The words pour from me with startling clarity. My education, my business success, my home, all of it dismissed because I don't have a wedding ring. Now that's not fair, Dad interrupts, but I continue. The kids' table incident wasn't isolated. It was the final example of a pattern. Mom's eyebrows arch. You're overreacting to a simple seating arrangement. It wasn't about seating, I say, meeting her gaze directly. It was about respect. As your father, Dad begins. As adults, I interrupt. We should treat each other with equal respect. My father's face reddens. He's not accustomed to being cut off, especially by his daughters. I don't need your approval to value my accomplishments. I continue. But if you want a relationship with me, you'll need to recognize that my worth isn't determined by my marital status. Mom's eyes fill with tears. You're breaking your father's heart. The familiar guilt rises, but I've prepared for this. I know this tactic intimately, the appeals to family obligation, the tears, the suggestion that I'm causing harm rather than responding to it. I'm sorry you feel that way. I respond, keeping my voice even. But emotional manipulation won't work anymore. Dad uncrosses his arms, leaning forward. We only want what's best for you. I decide what's best for me now. A silence falls between us. I watch as my parents exchange a glance, a wordless communication honed through decades of marriage. Something shifts in that look, a recognition that old patterns won't yield the usual results. What do you want from us? Mom finally asks, and the question surprises me. It might be the first genuine inquiry she's made about my feelings in years. Acknowledgement of my accomplishments, respect for my choices. Dad shakes his head. We've always respected you. Have you? I counter. When I graduated summa cum laude, Dad, you said, that's nice, honey. But don't focus so much on career that you miss your chance at a family. When I bought this loft, Mom, you said, it's a good investment, but don't wait too long to find someone. Mom's gaze drops to her hands. Her wedding ring catches the light from my windows. When I landed the Westmore account, a multi-million-dollar project, you both skipped the launch party because Evan's son had a soccer game. A soccer game you could have attended any weekend. Dad's posture changes, shoulders lowering slightly. We didn't realize how this appeared to you. It's how it is, I reply. Not how it appears. Mom straightens her back. You've made your point. Have I? I move toward my kitchen island where my portfolio sits. This is the feature in Architectural Digest. I've had it for 3 months. Did either of you read it? Their silence is answer enough. I don't need you to understand my life choices. I say more gently. I need you to respect them. I need you to respect them. Mom looks at the magazine, then back at me. Your business is impressive. We should have said so. Dad adds reluctantly. The article in the magazine was something to be proud of. The concession is small but significant. From my father, it's practically a standing ovation. I won't attend family functions where I'm treated as less than. I state clearly. No more kids' tables. No more dismissive comments about my career being a hobby. No more questioning when I'm going to settle down as if what I've built isn't settling. Mom's hands twist together, a nervous habit I've seen countless times. Will you be at Christmas? The question holds more weight than its simple words suggest. It's about the future of our relationship, about whether there's a path forward. That depends on whether I'm seated with the adults, I answer. Dad's jaw works for a moment before he responds. Of course you would be. The tension in the room shifts, not disappearing but transforming into something more navigable. We're establishing new terrain, setting boundaries where once there were none. I'd like to have a relationship with you both. I offer. But only if it's based on mutual respect. Mom nods, though her expression remains strained. Dad looks out my window at the Oakland skyline, perhaps seeing for the first time that I've built a life here, one with its own view, its own foundation. We should go, Dad says finally. I walk them to the door. I have a client meeting. We can talk again when you're ready to see me as I am. They leave without further comment, their steps oddly tentative in the hallway. I close the door and lean against it, finally allowing the tears that have been building. Not tears of defeat or frustration, but of release. My phone buzzes an hour later. A text from Aunt Lorraine. I hear they visited. Are you okay? I wipe my eyes and type a reply. Better than okay. I'm free. For the first time in my adult life, I've set the terms of my relationship with my parents. The restaurant incident that seemed so humiliating has become the catalyst for something invaluable, in my independence from their approval. I glance at the clock. My client will arrive in an hour. I have just enough time to freshen up and prepare my presentation for the Morrison project. Work that my parents might never fully appreciate, but work that fulfills me nonetheless. The weight I've carried for years trying to measure up to their definition of success while building my own feels lighter now. Not gone entirely, but manageable. I've claimed my place at the table, even if I had to build that table myself. I adjust the centerpiece of hydrangeas on my dining table one last time. 6 months since that night at Aveline's, and the memory no longer stings like an open wound. Instead, it's become something else, a turning point. The moment I finally stopped shrinking myself to fit into the box my family had constructed. Elena notices me lost in thought as she sets down a tray of appetizers. Earth to Skylar, she says, waving a hand. The stuffed mushrooms are getting cold. Sorry. I straighten a linen napkin that doesn't need straightening, just thinking about how much has changed. You seem lighter somehow, Elena observes, popping a mushroom into her mouth. I noticed it at the office yesterday too. That client from Seattle practically signed the contract before you finished your presentation. She's right. Since establishing boundaries with my parents, everything has shifted, not just my family relationships, but how I move through the world. I sleep without waking at 3 a.m., wondering if I should call my mother. My shoulders no longer tense when my phone rings. I breathe more deeply. The Palo Alto project brought in 3 referrals last week. I tell her. I'm thinking about hiring another designer. Because you're actually focusing on work instead of family drama? I nod, arranging water glasses. Turns out not checking my phone every 5 minutes for guilt trip messages improves productivity. Who knew? The doorbell chimes, and I welcome my guests, a collection of friends and colleagues who have become my chosen family. As I pour wine, my phone vibrates with a text from Aunt Lorraine. Your stand has everyone talking. More support in your corner than you realize. Later that evening, after the last guest leaves, I find a message from cousin Jennifer. What they did wasn't right. I admire your courage. Most surprising is the tentative text from my sister Camille. I didn't understand at first, but I get it now. Coffee next week? Even Evan's tone has shifted. While he remains firmly in our parents' camp, his messages lack their former condescension. The invitation to Owen's actual birthday party arrives with a handwritten note. We saved you a seat at the grown-up table. The change is small but significant. A message received. My parents maintain their distance, though the escalation has stopped. When my business is featured in a local magazine, I receive a brief text from my mother: "Saw your article. Nicely done." 6 months ago, those 5 words would have sent me spiraling with relief and validation seeking. Now I recognize them as the bare minimum of parental support. Progress, but hardly a transformation. 6 months ago, I'd have been desperate for that approval. I tell Elena during our weekly strategy meeting. Now it feels nice but unnecessary. And 6 months later, the holiday season arrives with a crispness in the San Francisco air. My loft, once dismissed by my mother as an investment, but don't wait too long to find someone, has become the gathering place for friends and colleagues. Tonight, I'm hosting a dinner party around my carefully designed table, the one I splurged on after landing the Palo Alto contract. Laughter flows easily. No one questions my life choices or hints at biological clocks. These people see me, the real me, successful designer, thoughtful friend, independent woman, not just an unmarried daughter failing to fulfill expectations. Between dessert and coffee, a cream envelope arrives from my parents' address. Inside, a Thanksgiving invitation on heavy cardstock. "We'd love to have you join us. Formal dinner. Adults only." Those last 2 words represent a small acknowledgement of a significant shift. I consider the invitation on my terms, not theirs. After careful thought, I RSVP. Looking forward to it. I'll stay 2 hours. My studio continues to flourish. I hire 2 new employees and lease additional office space in the building. My relationship with Aunt Lorraine deepens through monthly lunches where she shares family stories from before I was born. Camille and I meet occasionally for coffee, rebuilding a relationship based on who we are now, not who we were as children. I maintain regular visits with Owen and Riley, carefully separated from interactions with my parents. When I take them to the Children's Science Museum, Riley asks innocently, "Are you mad at Grandma and Grandpa?" "Not mad," I explain, helping her build a magnetic structure, just making sure they treat me with respect. "Like when you tell me to use my words instead of hitting Owen?" I smile at her simple wisdom. Exactly like that. My parents are learning to navigate our new relationship parameters, though old habits emerge. My mother still occasionally says things like, "When you find someone special," to which I now respond firmly, "I'm not looking right now. My business needs my focus." My father makes more effort, asking about work with genuine curiosity. "The downtown project sounds challenging. How's it going?" Our relationship remains imperfect but improved. The difference lies within me. I no longer measure my worth by their approval. Christmas Eve arrives with traditional San Francisco fog wrapping the city in silver. We gather at Montello's, an upscale restaurant downtown that reminds me of Avelines, though the memories associated with it will be entirely different. I arrive 15 minutes early, dressed in a deep green dress that complements my eyes. The maitre d' leads me to the private dining room where my family has gathered. Unlike that night 6 months ago, I'm seated prominently at the main table, between Aunt Lorraine and Uncle Robert. My mother approaches, hair elegantly coiffed, wearing the pearl necklace my father gave her for their 35th anniversary. "You look lovely, Skylar." When their friends arrive, my father introduces me with unexpected pride. "This is our daughter, the award-winning designer. She just completed a project featured in Architectural Quarterly." The change nearly stops my breath. Not our daughter who's still figuring things out, or our daughter who works in decorating. A full acknowledgement of who I actually am. During dessert, Jessica, my newest employee, mentions her parents' pressure about her career choices. They wanted me to be a lawyer like my sisters. They still introduce me as being in the arts like it's a phase. "Your worth isn't determined by others' expectations," I tell her, feeling the truth of it in my bones. "Build the life that makes you proud, not the one that makes them comfortable." Later, I announce something I've been planning for months. The Benjamin Thompson Foundation will be offering a scholarship for young entrepreneurs starting next fall. "Benjamin Thompson?" my mother questions. "Named after Uncle Ben," I explain. "He always supported my ambitions, even when they didn't fit the traditional mold." I outline my vision for expanding the studio to New York next year. My mother's face tightens momentarily. "That's quite far away," she says tentatively. "Will we still see you?" "What?" The question reveals how much has changed she's asking, not assuming or demanding. Distance doesn't change relationships. I answer truthfully. Respect does. My father watches me across the table, a new expression on his face. She always was stubborn, he tells Uncle Robert. Now I see its determination. As midnight approaches, I raise my glass for a toast. To family, I say, looking around the table. Those we're born to, and those we choose. Later, standing alone on the restaurant's terrace overlooking the bay, I reflect on the journey. That night at the kids' table was meant to humiliate me. Instead, it taught me to stand tall. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's living your life so fully that the people who doubted you can't look away. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they might even learn to see you clearly at last.